and say our pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That pledge means an awful lot to me. I know it does to you too, both, everybody. Okay, what I figured we'd do today, there's your copy over here of the agenda. Debbie, do you need a copy?
No.
Okay. We kind of discussed, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, that we'd have a quick meeting after the all hands, but we never had that as a follow-up, so I figured we'd use this time to catch up on all the follow-up questions that we had from the meeting and any questions that may have arisen during some of the interviews, and some interesting questions came up that I think it might be appropriate for all of us to pass that information around amongst us, so that if you run across that, then you know how to deal with that. So the first thing on the discussion was the New Hampshire retirement, and that really hadn't come up before until we started doing the interviews. And I should have brought my reading glasses with me, but one of the issues that I wanted to pass on to everybody about New Hampshire retirement is it is a separate line item on the budget line. The question was, does the town pay the full amount, or does the employees contribute a percentage? And the answer is the New Hampshire retirement system rate is 14.06 for regular employees and 33.88% for police. So you want to, when you run across that, then you know how to cross-check that and make sure that the numbers are jiving. The other thing is that it is a separate line item. Employees that work 35 hours or more weekly are eligible for that. Elected officials are not. And I think the answer was that it was the understanding of the author that provided this answer was that the police department, DPW, and the town office are the only ones that maybe authorize that, or it would be applicable to. So, but if you're dealing with any of your employees or your department heads and that question comes up, you might want to be armed with that information. The answer is that the employees do pay a percentage of it, but the only thing that you need to be concerned about is the town's portion, and I gave you those percentages. Okay, does that clear that up, or does that provide some backup info? Okay.
Yeah, so no elected officials, no boards, no committees. None of them are eligible. It's only full-time, 35-hour.
Or more.
Because 32 hours is technically considered full-time,
Okay.
but in order to be eligible for New Hampshire retirement, it's 35 hours.
Okay.
So we don't have anybody that works 32 though, so it's either 35 or part-time.
Okay, good. Did normally in the past have the department heads plug those numbers in? Okay, so they should be aware of that then. But for your information, you need that as well. You're more than welcome to sit at the table if you'd like, Debbie. Just didn't want to make you feel like you were singled out over there.
Be more relaxed
I'm just
over
here
there.
in case you have any questions
Okay, good.
that I can answer. Did you have a question, Joe?
No, I'm good. I was just going through, I'll probably have to follow up with you on the town officer stuff, but
Yeah.
not at this point, so
Okay.
we're good.
Another issue popped up that I think that we all need to be on the same sheet of musing about is that Mitch came across, and he's not here to articulate that, but Mitch came up with at least one hard example of where, and maybe two others, where they were concerned about plugging in expenses into the general fund. For what reason, I'm not absolutely certain, but if it is for the general fund, and I'm not talking about any of your what's the word? I've lost the terminology. The not recyclable. The transfer station issues such as well, I think the one case was replacement, replenishment, not reimbursement. I'm losing the bubble on it. What's that called? It's not a general fund. It's not a trust fund. It is a revolving fund. Thank you. My brain just went flat, dead. So if you run across that where they identify a line item that they don't want to report expenses for, you need to find out if it's something other than a general fund. If it is a general fund, the rule of thumb is put it in there. If it's a revolving fund or any other kind of fund, question them about that.
Yeah.
And then make sure, because in many of those cases, I think that's handled separately, is it not?
Yeah, so for example, Parks and Rec, they have a revolving fund.
That's what I'm learning right now,
Yes.
and it's confusing
Yep,
because it shows they didn't spend any money on something, but she obviously was telling me numbers that she was spending, and they come out of the revolving fund.
right,
So she was saying like soccer per se, there's money left over in the fund that doesn't get taken away at the end of the year. It goes into next year's fund. So say if they need new soccer lines before the season starts, before people have paid their kids' soccer team fees, they still have money to go and spend on things like that. But so yeah, there's
yeah, cause it's not necessarily.
a lot of revolving funds going on in the Parks
Yeah.
and Rec end.
Right, cause it's not part of the budget.
Right.
So Parks and Rec collects fees, they have the snack bar, all that money that they collect goes into the general fund, into the
Revolving fund.
revolving fund.
Yeah.
And then when they have a dance or they have, like you said, soccer, or they need
Yes.
to buy food for the snack shack or whatever
Right.
it is, they
Right.
take it out of that.
Yes.
So
But that's totally separate from their budget.
Yeah, and she was saying they even have different funds for different items, like soccer has its own fund, field
Yeah.
hockey has its own fund,
Basketball,
basketball has its own fund.
softball,
Yeah, so there's
Yeah,
all these different
pool.
funds that all have revolving money. So like soccer money goes into the soccer fund and revolves
Right.
back out into soccer.
right,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of those going on.
subcategories almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, even though it's not a general fund, I guess that's the criteria that we need to make sure we're on equal footing with our department heads. We are dealing with the general fund,
Yeah,
and we're not
dealing
we're
with
not
revolving.
managing any of the trusts or the
Yeah.
revolvings or any of those other funds.
Yeah.
At least at this point.
right.
We're just
Yeah, but
dealing with
yeah.
the general fund. So we're just dealing with the general fund. So if that question comes up, question them. Is this part of a revolving fund, trust fund, or
Yeah.
something else
Okay.
other than general fund? And that may clarify that answer. But the general rule of thumb is if it's an expense, report it.
Yeah.
Okay? Have you run into any issues about contracting with any of your interviews? No. Okay.
I wouldn't say issues, but just I guess the fact of the contracts are probably gonna be higher next year, but they don't quite know yet. So for like example, the pool, she knows what her opening fee for the pool was, but she hasn't had it closed up yet.
Mm-hmm.
She's anticipating a number that they had told her, but she's hoping it's obviously the same. And she's gonna ask them if she can get next year's number as
Is
well.
that a single source contract vendor?
I'm not sure. We were just discussing it as we ended our meeting.
Mhm.
So yeah. definitely.
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
not,
we truncated that, cause that would have been an interesting, note.
yeah, it would have been, but yeah, one of the issues is she usually would have closed the pool by now, but I guess the pool closing company is so backed up they can't get to it till
Okay,
1 month from now. So October 14th is when, yeah. So October 14th is when the pool is gonna be officially sealed off,
closed, yeah.
and then they won't be adding more chemicals, whatever. So can't finish
Yeah.
her budget, quote unquote, until then.
When you're conducting your interviews and gathering your data, one of the questions, actually several questions I would ask each of the department heads, and this is just for fact finding only. Ask some questions like, what is your source vendors? How do you obtain them? Do you get bids? What is the approval process? How is a selection made? Those kinds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I ask this, and I think it would be good that we collectively gather some of this information, is to take a look at the process by which we're getting vendor support. And does that affect your numbers for this go around? Probably not. But it would be good and valuable information for us as a committee to have that kind of hip pocket information to discuss later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, good. The next issue was COLA for stipend salaries. And that question came up and
I had that question
okay,
half an hour ago. I was asking her.
okay. So the answer that I got is are the stipend staff eligible for COLAs? Is that accurate? The answer is yes and no, but stipends don't usually increase unless that individual has asked for an increase to the stipend amount.
For example,
There's-
welfare, she didn't get a pay increase for like 10 years,
Okay,
cause she never asked for one.
okay,
But she does an awful lot of work, so like last year, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that she actually got an increase, but she didn't ask for one
yeah.
again, you know what I mean, so,
A stipend is a little bit kind of like a contract, in a way, isn't it? I mean, you
Kinda.
establish a hardline stipend amount.
right, so
And-
if you work 2 hours or you work 2,000 hours,
Exactly.
you're getting the same amount of money.
Yeah. I don't know the level of effort for all stipend recipients, but I think that the issue came up before was, do you pay, does Medicare come out of the stipends or FICA?
I think, I'm not 100% sure, cause I think it has to be a certain amount of money. Cause some people get like $1,000 a year for their stipend.
yeah.
So that's below the threshold to collect, to withhold taxes.
Let's see.
Yeah, I had just asked her about that, and she didn't think it came out of hers, and she wasn't sure. Obviously, she doesn't run the payroll for the employees,
Right,
so she doesn't know how it even works for their
Right.
level. So she believes that it doesn't come out
cause
of
they're,
hers.
well, they're hourly,
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
those guys,
yeah.
but she's stipend,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look.
Where did I run across that?
So, elections and registrations have hourly pay and they have stipends, and they do not pay FICA,
Taxes.
Medicare, or any retirement stuff.
Right,
So then so that would indicate that if they're on stipend, they do not get FICA, Medicare,
Or retirement.
or retirement.
but I think if the stipend's a certain amount or more, then they have to,
Oh,
I'm not 100% sure.
I think it might be beneficial to all of us to figure out what the threshold is that they would have to obtain from a stipend to be required to pay out the Medicare and FICA,
Right.
if that's applicable.
I'll look that up tomorrow.
Okay, and I think the question was,
Wednesday.
boss was gonna be appraised of that and weigh in on it, I thought.
Do you want my cheaters, Dan?
Huh?
Do you want my cheaters?
I don't think that your cheaters would even help me, my eyes are so bad.
Okay.
Yeah, long story, but you might see me closing one eye to read something that's
Okay.
only because his other eye's so bad without my readers on. Okay. Okay, the last item there, and I think you might have brought this up, repairs for items covered under a contract or a revolving account, such as the pool. And what did you find out again on that, Lou? What were you discussing with Cheryl or Shauna?
Yeah, I was discussing with her what she's anticipating next year to be, and if she can find out from the pool opening and closing company, and she said she's gonna look into that. Hopefully before our next meeting she'll have that answer.
But the real
But
the question is that a contract or part of a revolving account? If it's a contract under general fund, then the repairs should be, they probably have a maintenance contract with that.
yeah, I think it would fall under, well, no, the equipment maintenance is different on the different line than the open close line.
A separate line?
Yeah, it's a separate line
Okay.
for pool. Cause the pool open close budgeted was 2,500. And I believe she anticipates,
2,500, you talking dollars?
for opening and closing the pool, yeah.
Each way, open and close?
I believe that's for the both of them.
Oh, okay.
But she's anticipating to, I think, be spending a little bit more than that, but she's not sure because the pool hasn't been closed yet.
Right. So they are also getting a new pool filter, which should drop the pool filter maintenance
Fees.
by a lot, because this filter is so old that they should be spending a lot less money in chemicals, because they're not gonna need
Mm-hmm.
to
So
do that.
The savings would be a
Yeah.
reduced amount for 2023, even after they bought the new filter?
Are we
Or
just
is it a
going from-
one upfront cost that's gonna cost a lot and we'll get the savings in the out years?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the money to pay for the filter, it was approved from the ARPA funds.
From the what funds?
ARPA funds, so so there's how do I explain it? So the federal government gave every town and city in the country X amount of dollars based on your population and whatever for COVID relief funds. And then by the time they were done, it ended up being, you can pretty much use it for anything, as long as it benefits the town. So every town got a certain amount of dollars based on their population, et cetera. So we got, I think it was a little more than or a little less than 500,000. So we had all the department heads make a wish list, for what they desperately need for their department, so we don't have to put it in the budget. You know, like the EMD, the emergency management stuff, was so antiquated we couldn't fix it anymore. So if we actually had an emergency, we'd be in big trouble because it doesn't work. So the board approved, I don't even know, $140,000 or something to get that, get it new and up and running and all of that kind of stuff. So the pool filter, because that was over like a lot of stuff around here is over 20 years old, and we've just thrown good
Yeah.
money after bad trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of things, even the police radios, that are beyond the point of being able to be repaired, so they have to be replaced. So either we use the ARPA funds, that has to be kept totally separate from everything else, or we'd have to put it in the budget and raise and appropriate the money.
So how would the committee members know what items would be set aside for these ARPA funds?
Because they have already been approved by the Board of Selectmen, so
Okay.
you're not gonna see any of it.
Okay,
You're not gonna see all the EMD stuff,
okay.
cause
So-
they're not putting it in their budget.
Just as a cross-check then, once all the data comes together as a, what do you call it, the bulk data when it comes in, each of the line items should be identified clearly what it is that they're buying. So do we need a cross-check on any of those items to make sure that we're not replicating any of those?
It shouldn't be, they haven't really given out a lot of money for a lot of different departments. Basically, like police got some stuff that we've already kind of paid for, they've already invoiced us. The pool, the filter, I think they're gonna be installing it in the spring before it opens. And the EMD stuff that we're kind of in the process of getting, but they know they're not putting those in their budget.
So what did you call this, the ARPA?
ARPA,
ARPA,
ARPA funds.
A-R,
American Recovery, yeah, something,
is
Act,
what was the COVID,
yeah,
yeah,
COVID relief fund,
yeah.
basically.
Okay, so that's nice to have background
Yeah.
information as we are
But-
talking with them, so we can at least,
Yeah, in the case of the pool, I mean, that should result, by them getting the new filter, not from the budget, that should reduce their chemical purchases, so they shouldn't have as high, although this year they will, cause now they have to keep it open all a month longer,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, they're already
over
pretty,
budget on
pretty
that.
far over
Yeah.
budget,
But that's because the filter's so bad, that they have to keep dumping chemicals in it.
Right, which is expensive.
Right,
yeah.
yeah, as we all know.
Yeah, inflation has hit the chemicals, I'm sure, quite a
Oh
bit.
yeah, I bought chlorine for my pool, just a 7-pound bucket,
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, and it was $25. I bought it the same exact thing this year, and it was $68 in 2 years. And that's just my little 7-pound bucket of hockey puck chlorine tablets.
Yeah, so doubling it for a pool that hundreds of people use
Right.
is, yeah.
Exactly. So
Inflation is really not that high, it's only like 7 to 8%.
I know, but I mean,
Sorry.
it depends on what. Well, they had the big chlorine chemical plant fire and all that, whatever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know,
But anyway, so it should reduce the maintenance on the filter, because it's not gonna break down every day, hopefully. And backwash, swamp water into the pool, so they have to use more chemical. It's just a whole bad scene down there, so hopefully this
Mm.
will
okay,
lighten their budget a little bit.
that's good. There was one other thing that I
Oh, we're still on repairs for just a second,
yeah,
so,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
there are two, account numbers in the police budget that does, hardware repair and software maintenance. So it's, it ends in 431 and 740. So if you have repair, it's probably could fit in one of those. I think they're reversed in the police budget, so I'll look up the definition of those account numbers sometime. But the description I had was opposite of what was in there. But they're 431 and 740.
What do you mean they were opposite?
The description they had was talking about a hardware maintenance agreement, and they had software in it. And then when I went through it further on, it talked about subscription maintenance, which typically is software, and it had examples, but there was hardware in that. So I think the budget might have been just transposed, but
Okay,
just the account numbers. I mean, the data was all valid, but
the account numbers are not incorrect, it's just that they were transposed by Okay,
Yeah.
by human,
by human, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
alright,
So I caught that the other day, and I'll dig into that some more.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'd check with Mike on that.
Yeah.
okay,
That's
It
interesting.
looked like he was using a historical file that he just edited, so it was probably done years ago. So,
okay,
but there's it's 431 and 440 talk about maintenance of equipment, so that's probably where that would fit in anyway. One of those.
Catch. That's why we paid you guys the big bucks.
yeah, right. We're worth every penny of it, aren't we?
You betcha.
Yeah.
And then some.
In last week's meeting, I erred by omitting something that I should have mentioned to everybody but didn't. And that was, as you're going through each of the accounting lines, particularly your large dollar items such as contracts and the big money items, things like that. As you're going through that, and we alluded to talking about this, but one of the things we didn't really close the loop on was the discussion at looking at what documentation that they may have or what kind of backup material that they have to substantiate the amounts that they're putting in there. Now, we haven't asked for them to do a data dump for all of their backup documents, but one thing they need to have is have that on hand. And that needs to be addressed with them whenever you go through these line items, because we need to try to work as close as we can to having 100% transparency. If something comes up, we don't want to be stammering and stuttering and trying to figure out how we're going to justify a number. It's got to be backed up by some kind of method, some kind of algorithm, some kind of document or whatever. Yeah, I can throw some examples out, but I mean, you're all wise people. You know what you're probably going to need to see to get that back up.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So like, say salt for the winter, for the DPW, how would you, I mean, you can get a quote for how many how much it is a ton or whatever, but you're never gonna know how many tons you're gonna use depending on how
Exactly.
much it, so that's kind of,
So what would we do in that
Yeah.
case? I think that's where some of our prior numbers might be helpful
right,
to know, are we way out of whack? Are we underestimating, overestimating, or over the target?
yeah,
And the issue, I mean, the circumstances such as seasonal adjustments and stuff like that, we cannot control.
right, exactly,
And in that particular case, so let's say this coming winter, well, I guess it'd be I guess part of it
no,
would be in
part of it's
2023.
interesting, yeah,
We may be hit exceptionally hard with ice, snow, constant precipitation of something, and we're constantly plowing or constantly de-icing or whatever, and our budget's through the roof. Well, what do you do in that circumstance? Well, based on what I've heard everyone explain to me, is that we do have a fund balance
the buffer,
that, call it a buffer, it's not a
Yeah.
slush fund, but it is
No.
a fund balance based on unexpected requirements, and that's how we would have to address it. We can't assume that we're going to have a hard winter or a very
Right.
light winter, but we have to go on data
just do
that we
like a
have.
best guess,
Yes,
historical,
Right.
estimate, average, yeah, okay,
and I think that's the only way that we can cover the bulk of our requirements through the budgetary process, but if we're exceeding the requirements based on usage that was not under our control, then we have to go back to the town. If the town can't handle it, maybe state may have emergency funds or something like that. We'll learn maybe more about that tomorrow. But that's the way I would handle it if when you're dealing with your direct department heads. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Debbie, you threw a curveball at us. Someone go on to the next topic on that last meeting. I thought the regional associations would be pulled off of the general fund, but then you mentioned that we would add that back on in the meeting. And I was under the understanding that that was like association fees, prescription, membership dues and things like that. And then the answer was that that would be included in the department budgets.
Yep.
But is that exclusive to any specific departments?
Nope.
So all of them have regional.
A lot of them. I wouldn't use the word regional necessarily, but
Well, that's what it's called in the line, I think.
like the town clerk has 3 different sets of dues that they have to pay: the town clerks association, the tax collectors association,
Okay.
and there's another one. There's assessing association.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different membership dues. I'm sure the PD has a few. The
Yep,
fire
several in the police
department has a few.
Right. Okay.
You know.
So.
Those are all in their own budgets.
Okay. Oh, it's in their own budgets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
the PD
thought that
pays
I-
for the PD
Do you have a copy of
dues.
the complete lines there in front of you, Joe?
No, not all
Wasn't
of them.
there 3 lines for regional association costs that was not attributable to any one specific
I
department?
mean, there might be something in the town office budget, is that what you're looking at?
I don't know. I didn't really do a lot of research on that when I thought, maybe erroneously, that wasn't going to be included in the budget, or that was going to be pre-populated based on something.
Yeah, no, they're in each department has their own membership dues.
Okay.
I
Well, I
think
tell you
that's
what.
yeah.
Then let's. If do you see anything there?
No, I mean, I've got publications and association dues all over them, so,
Yeah.
but they're individually,
Okay.
but I know that we had something, I recall talking about it and said, yeah, that doesn't apply to us.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
remember the conversation?
That's the reason why I took it off.
Yeah.
And
there's
then
definitely something that said regional association, and then I remember writing down something, ask Deb, and I think we might have talked about it, but we must have all had a misunderstanding.
Well, I obviously misunderstood
I'll have to
what
look
that
that
was
up.
about. So Deb,
I
I tell you
think
what,
that-
I'll take that on. Joe, mark this down. I'll take that on to work that with Debbie to see how we need to hone down on that. And since it wasn't attributable to any one specific department, it may be something that it's a town requirement, maybe. But we'll go back to the records to see what else was captured in prior
Yeah.
years.
I mean, it might be something that's just to do with the selectmen.
Could
So
be.
it's under the town office umbrella.
Could be. I should have had my laptop with me today.
That's all right.
I thought I recalled 2 or 3 lines on regional associations somewhere.
Okay. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
For some reason, we had it under. This is something we had at one point, and there was just building permits, which ended up being building department. We found out.
Yeah.
Communications, which is for fire and police combined. There was insurances, patriotic purposes. Then we had regional association. I crossed it off, and I said no department head. So we must have had it as a department for some reason at one point on our
Oh.
list.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because we were trying to figure out who was the department heads
Yep.
of
Yeah.
these.
Oh.
Of these.
That's what it was.
Yes.
We didn't have a department. That's what it
Yeah.
was. We didn't have a
Okay.
department head. There was no linkage to
So it must have
anyone.
been each.
So Debbie, you and I need to figure
Okay.
that out
Because
Yeah.
we can't leave that one hanging out there.
Okay. Does it have a number next to it?
no, this was just
Oh.
a questionnaire.
Just a worksheet.
Right.
Yeah, like
Okay.
who owns these?
Okay.
Who's in charge of these items?
But I think we're good. That may have come from my first list where I was
Yeah.
going through the owners of when I was trying to do the mapping. I know I
Right.
know there was a lot of changes
Yeah.
after that. We may have just that might have been oversight, but we're capturing it in the department budgets anyway. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure Mitch would be as well,
Mm-hmm.
because there are
Okay.
line items for
Well, if you have line items, then Joe, just continue to march. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Department heads know exactly what they're looking at. So
Yep.
Okay. I'll look into that.
okay. The other thing that continues to plague us is the inflation rates.
And Eric had a great question. He phrased it perfectly. Eric's question, the EMD guy.
Yeah.
He said if it was $1,200 in 2021 and it was $1,500 last year, and right now I know it's $2,000 today, what do I budget for? Do I budget at the 2021 rate of $1,200, or do I budget for the what I know it's going to be today, current rate today, and
It
it's
has
still
to be.
subject
I mean,
to
you can't
inflation.
back up and say, well, you
Yeah.
offered it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But if it's gonna increase in the next 6 months, cause like we're doing budgets now and we're trying to predict what the costs are gonna be in next year.
Yep. So we budgeted at
Well,
that's-
2,000 today.
That's the inflation
And that's
factor.
what he was
Yeah.
asking,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I believe you had told him we want today's number, and then we'll add inflation to it.
and we'll add the.
Yeah.
And him not add the inflation to it. Is what-
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and
is what
that's
you had said, yeah.
which brings up the issue of the inflation factor. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some issues that may be completely out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, hopefully, the most of it is going to be within a norm inflation rate, and we can deal with that. But
Right.
at some point in time, we need to come to grips with the selectmen to figure out how we're going to deal with this, and we can't just wait until, oh, we got the data, now what do we do with it?
Yep.
So we
Right.
need to start thinking about how we're dealing with that. I know that the federal government puts out, figures on what they anticipate the inflation rate to be. I don't know if the town can withstand that,
Mm.
Yeah.
so we're gonna have to deal with that.
Well, even the COLA.
And the COLA's same, yeah,
2.5% we're doing,
yeah.
and so the town administrators have like an email chain thing,
Yeah,
and some of them are doing 8%, some of them are doing 6%.
some of them,
Some of the other towns,
gotcha.
their COLA
yeah,
for their employees, some are doing 6, some are doing 8, some are doing 4,
do you remember what the guidance to us was?
2.5,
Well, the other part of it was don't compare other towns.
2 other towns, no,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah, but there are certain items that are definitely a lot more than the 2.5%.
right,
That's going to be a lengthy discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I wanted to raise that now.
Yeah.
And maybe a follow-on would be for us, maybe me to go sit, 5-10 minutes in a selectman group to say, hey, we need to start thinking about this and we need to get our heads together on it, but we can't ignore it until the 11th hour, or else we'll be just shooting ourselves in the foot. Okay. So
So I don't think we're ready for that discussion with them yet.
no, but we
Right.
need to plant
Yeah.
that in their head to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because
And I know we're not supposed to compare to other towns, but if we're pushing 2 to 3%, and somebody else is pushing up to 8%, that puts us at a big disadvantage to hanging on to people. So we should plan for that.
well, it also enters into the realm of retention too.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah. Yep. You didn't use the word, but exactly.
You want to keep
Yeah.
good people that understand the town,
Yeah.
the processes, and if you start losing them, then you start losing brain power.
Yep.
mm-hmm,
Again, that's what I was saying. These are the kinds of things that the selectmen need to consider once we get all the data together and how we handle that and apply that across the lines. So.
Okay.
I can either handle it going, take a 5-minute spiel at a selectman, or Debbie, you can just bring it up to them and say, ask them to start considering this and give some thought to us. If they want some input from us, we'll be glad to give that to them, but again, we're not in the business of making the decisions for them either, so.
right. But I think recommendations would be, you guys are the experts.
It would be nice if we
I don't
had,
know, experts in
Quote,
inflation.
unquote.
You
No,
know,
but
who would
you
have
know what I
thought?
mean? Like you guys have all done budgeting and
Yeah,
one level or another, and that kind of stuff, and, you know, we're all kinda new at the whole, you know, I mean, Sean's got 2 years, Jason's got 1, you know, Lou
Mhm.
doesn't have any, cause this is his first budget season.
Right.
I've done department budgets, but I've never done the
Yeah.
whole,
So,
The only approach that I know that is defendable, and I don't pretend to have a corner on the market, is to go to some authoritative document to say, this is what you should anticipate for inflation. Now, what's the risk you want to accept if you
Right.
lower that rate
right.
from what it is? And you can
And
go,
part of it, I mean, whatever we do affects the tax rate, and which affects all the residents' pocketbooks, which they're struggling enough as it is, you know, trying to get oil for and
right,
buy wood for their wood stoves, and winter's coming, and, you know, like paying higher prices for gas, for food and everything, so like where do you find that balance where, yeah, we still need to operate as a town, but we don't wanna, you know, have our residents not be able to pay their taxes 'cause it's too high, you know what I mean? So there's gotta be some kinda happy medium in there somewhere. I don't know what that would be, but,
Yeah.
you know.
so at the rate we're going, we've got the model where we can enter our data, our preliminary data, and then with that preliminary data, we can scale that COLA rate and see what the impact is on the budget.
sure,
Right.
Whether it's, you know, $1 million or $500,000, but
Right.
we can tell the impact of
Yep.
a 4%, a 6%, 8%, a
Right.
2%.
Sure. Yeah.
And we can model that and say, well, really, what are we talking about the impact in dollars to the budget?
Exactly.
And I think that's where we have to be before we go up to the board and say, here's our recommendation.
And
Sure.
this, and the state has a formula of a ballpark of how much it's gonna cost as far as tax dollars, like what it will do to the tax rate. They call it the 3-finger rule, so if you have like $1.4 million, you knock off the last 3 zeros, so it's gonna be 14,000, 140,000. I'm not doing math well in my head. Whatever it is. And then you divide it by the assessed value of the entire town minus the, you know, all the veterans credits and all that kind of stuff we do. So I have the actual formula in my
Yeah.
office. And I'm guessing they're gonna talk about that tomorrow too. But it breaks it down to, you know, it's gonna be like 0.04004 cents per thousand that it's gonna affect your tax rate.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's not,
Yeah.
like, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you break it down, you know, as far as how it, you know, like, so your tax rate is $25 and you're trying to debate whether you wanna do a $1.4 million project and raise and appropriate that money, and it comes down to like 14 cents per thousand. You know what I mean? So it's really not a lot. It sounds like a big dollar amount, but it's not a lot.
Right,
as
'cause
far
it's only a subset of the total
Right.
budget,
Right.
Right,
and and
exactly.
even though it may be a high percentage, it doesn't have that big of an impact on the total budget.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
I got
I'm
you.
talking about like if you were gonna do like a warrant article and you're gonna put in a $1.4 million police station, but like people don't see, they see $1.4 million, nope. But if you look at it and say it's only 14 cents per thousand on your tax bill, you're much more likely to gain the support, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm not saying that's what the numbers are, but, cause like I said, I have the formula
No,
in my
we
office.
follow you, yeah.
But you know, so when you do your projections at 2%, at 3%, at 5%, whatever, and you see what the total dollar difference is,
Mm-hmm.
then you can kinda have a ballpark idea of how much that would affect the tax rate.
Has the tax base increased significantly from one
Oh,
year
yeah.
to the next?
This year, I mean, I can't remember how many new houses were built in town right now. Yeah, so we have a higher assessed value, which, and there's a lot of like people who are getting credits that no longer, they moved out of town or whatever, so now that, veterans credit isn't being,
Applied anymore.
applied,
Mhm.
so that, those numbers have changed and everything, so it's all a factor,
Be interesting to see how that fares out.
yeah, so,
When does
Yeah.
that happen, or do we know?
what, the tax rate?
Yeah,
That's October. Normally it's October. I'm waiting for 2 more reports. One from the auditor and one from the assessor that I have to send to the state. Other than that, they have everything they need to set the tax rate.
okay,
So we're just waiting for those 2. And it's usually set by mid-October for the December bill.
so we should have a revenue estimate then sometime mid-end October then, right?
Yeah, once we find out what the tax rate is gonna be, we can figure out, when we have the assessed value and
Okay.
use their formula.
Okay. Are there any other business items or issues or good for the order of the business at hand
I have
to be
one.
addressed? Yes, ma'am.
So are you guys all using the emails that were sent out? The town of New Ipswich emails?
I have not, no.
I have not, no.
Okay,
I didn't really wanna send out emails, switching emails.
right.
I'm not too concerned about the people I'm working with yet,
So
but,
the reason that we did that is
Yeah.
because if anyone had a 91A request, the right to know, and you're using your personal email, all of your personal emails can be discoverable.
okay,
So if you're using the town of New Ipswich email address, all of those town of New Ipswich
Yeah.
emails would be, you know what I mean? So your personal stuff isn't
yeah,
commingled.
So, so everybody has a town email address now?
Yep, you all should have gotten one.
I got
email.
one a couple
Yeah.
of weeks ago.
Yep,
Haven't
Or
used it a
little
lot
longer than that.
occasionally, but
yeah.
did you
The
get
finance
So
chair is
it's
the town
all through
email, right?
Outlook.
The finance chair
Yeah,
is the town email, right?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
did get one, I haven't set it up yet. I will
So
do
that,
Yeah.
that's what she's saying,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I got it, I just said, nah, I don't wanna
Cause
borrow
I
it
sent
now.
you guys an email asking
Yes.
to your personal emails, but nobody responded, cause I had asked a couple of other things too.
you didn't send
I
that
didn't
to
wanna
me
do it.
because I had an email though, correct?
What?
You didn't send that to me because I had an email already, is that correct?
I don't understand what you're saying.
You said you sent out an email to them,
All
To
of us,
all of
a couple of
you,
weeks ago.
to the whole committee,
okay?
I sent out an email to the whole committee saying, and I had a couple of questions though, and one of the questions was, are you guys using the town supplied emails, and no one answered that
Did
question
you check the email
in that email.
to see if you had
Yes, I
DHOW,
did.
and it was?
It was. So it was, I sent it out to the whole committee. So I just wanna make sure you guys are using
But I think you're using the town in your emails.
when you send out finance chair at Town of New Ipswich.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I
That's-
think you need to
that's the
drop
town
your, when you send out those notes, drop your private email off of that, and then you're safe, and I just have to get mine enabled and give it to
It's-
you, and
they're
then
all
we just use
enabled.
that. They're all enabled, yeah,
They're all,
okay.
all set, but you need to be able to check it, so. So they're all
Yep,
through,
I'll work on that.
Outlook 365, so it was all in that email that you got from Greg,
Yeah,
the IT guy, saying this is set up, this is the username, this is the password, it was that secure email.
Right, now if that's what you're talking
Yes,
about, I
that's-
did get that and I set it up,
Yeah,
okay.
and I got it at the same time you
You
did.
got one
I
and you
didn't set it
didn't
up.
set it up,
Nope.
shame on you.
right,
You don't, I said, no, I
Shame on
I
you.
also didn't set it up.
and
Alright, now I'm with you now.
I don't think Mitch did either.
Okay,
Okay.
would it pose
So-
an issue if I didn't set it up?
You can use your own personal email.
Okay, cause if they wanna look
just
at my
know-
Geico receipts, they can
Okay.
have fun. I don't have any, like, email is not something I use often.
Okay, so
So-
just
so-
so
so,
you know
yeah.
that it is,
That it could potentially, if someone were to
Yeah.
want the right to know, they can look at my AutoZone receipt if they want.
okay,
Yeah, I'm not concerned about anything
okay,
in my email for sure.
okay,
Okay.
So,
Just wanted
so
to-
yeah, I don't plan on setting up
that's fine,
the town
Okay.
email. I
alright.
think I'd probably confuse myself if I log into different accounts, so
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
Just wait until you start getting spammed. Whew.
I know,
I get like
Yeah.
100 on my Gmail, almost
yeah.
100 a day,
me too,
and I have to look through them very carefully or else I miss something.
and I never delete anything, so like
Yeah. Okay,
47,000 emails that I have.
okay, emails
I-
set up and Luke says no.
Yep,
So Deb, I have a question for you regarding the Parks and Rec in pool.
sure,
So Shauna has been budgeted for the pool. She's not budgeted anything for electric use.
okay,
And for Parks and Rec, she's budgeted $25 for 2021 and then the same number for 2022.
For what? Electric?
For electricity.
$25?
And she has spent, in 2020, she spent 194, in 21 she spent 177. And this year she's spent, I don't know exactly, I believe it was 190, but she's given 25, and she said she's never seen an electricity bill. She
Well-
doesn't know where it comes from, where it goes to, who pays it. But for some reason numbers show up in here, and she doesn't know anything about them.
Well, it's probably coming into the town.
Yeah, it must be coming through
It
the
comes
DP.
into a town as an invoice and it shows up for the pool.
Yeah, and the town-
And Roger then takes it and
Yes.
does the interpolation for the accounting line number and
Yeah.
posts it against that. What you need to do in that case, and that's the reason why you have those historical numbers, is you need to help the department head get straight. So if you see those actual numbers in much larger than $25
Yes,
for 2 or 3
exactly.
years in a row,
and nothing
need to
for the
con-
pool,
And the pool has no number, even on the master sheet here. The pool
no
has,
history,
I didn't look in here, on the, yeah, there's no history. Past 2020, there's nothing for electricity for the pool. And they obviously have that filter running, they have
Right.
some lights, they have,
right,
the water pump turns on so they can wash
Yeah.
their hands. Maybe the pump comes from the Parks and Rec pump, I don't know how it works, and she doesn't know either. So that's
scary, is what it is.
the other thing
Okay.
too is electricity's like doubling.
That's the thing, so we need to figure out what she spends
Right.
per month. See, of like today's
I wonder if
dollars
it's
to
getting
budget for
charged
next year's
somewhere
month that
else.
she's using it.
So the numbers that you got where she said she was posting or seeing 190 something and 170 something, was that on the actual numbers that I sent to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So you need to use that then as a yardstick
Yes,
measurement to
yes,
help her
exactly,
build
yeah.
that budget.
yeah, but she doesn't even see the bill
Doesn't matter.
for this year, so she doesn't know what she's even spent. So that would be
Yeah.
in the
I'll,
town, because she doesn't know what she spent this year even,
Right.
obviously, so this
Maybe-
this is up to,
For
Yeah.
Wednesday,
okay.
I'm forgetting I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah, I don't know if there's, and this is a management process, maybe there's something that Roger needs to do to,
Well, Roger doesn't work here anymore.
Roger's gone.
oh, he's gone now, so you don't have
September 8th.
anybody, do you? Yet, you,
Me and Sue, trying to tag team it.
So that was a question I
Everybody's
had for
getting
you, like how much has she spent this year?
paid. Okay.
So we can put in for next
I'm
year
gonna
what she's gonna.
look at all the electric bills, cause I was under the understanding, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I thought that, is that thunder?
sounds like we're
It's
supposed to get rain.
Yeah, it'd be rain.
So, to not,
So
I'm
I was
sorry.
under the understanding that the electric bill comes in, the cell phone bill comes in, whatever bill it is for whatever department, and Roger would make a copy of it and put it in the department head's mailbox,
mailbox,
and they would sign off on it.
That's
So
good.
they can see
Yeah.
that this is what it is. But I mean, I would-
apparently not everybody's seeing that, well, at
I
least
don't
based
know,
on
it
their,
just,
Or maybe she missed it.
could be. But, that's another thing, I'm not gonna get into that right now.
Another thing,
Processes is important.
Yes,
radio
yeah,
organization.
yes. And one other thing that
That's
I had a
all I'll
question
say.
about,
Yep,
like from her, if you have just 1 minute.
lightning strikes, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at my,
Oh yeah.
it was cause I got an alert,
So
yeah,
for pool education training, she's been getting budgeted
I'm guessing that's.
for this for pool, not for Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Pool education training, she's been getting budgeted $850 for the past 3 years, so in 2021 and 22.
Mhm,
She's on paper she's spending a lot less. She spent $305 in 20, she spent $570 in 21, and this year she's only spent $374.
Does she know what those expenses are attributable to?
And she knows what they go to, and she said that she doesn't. It's basically someone goes and gets their lifeguard training through Red
I was
Cross,
gonna say, yeah.
and they then get reimbursed by the town, not by the pool. But she said that they've reimbursed over $1,600 this year, or anticipated because of how many lifeguards got trained, but it only shows $374 on her sheet. But she only budgeted $850. So when the form's getting sent back, so the employee comes and says, I did my training, here's my form, can I get reimbursed? She sends it into here and says this is for pool
Right.
training, and it's not coming out of where it's supposed to be, and it looks like double has been spent than what was budgeted for.
Right,
So obviously someone's been reimbursing the lifeguards, but
right,
it doesn't show up
Coming
how
out of
much
the
we've been reimbursing, and she knows ish how
Coming
much
out
she'll
of the
need next
revolving
year.
fund?
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing, she doesn't know, it's the accountant that's been reimbursing them.
Right, so, but if she
So
looked at
basically,
her,
yeah, but-
if she looked at her budget and said, why does this only say
$850 when she
we've only
knows
spent $850 when I know it's gotta be $1,600,
exactly.
why wouldn't she question that?
I don't know, so next year we're gonna put in for what she anticipates for lifeguard training, but we need to make sure it comes out of where it's supposed to instead of from
Well, this,
who knows
yeah,
where.
I'm gonna,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, so educational training for pool, that's
Yeah.
a big question.
Again,
But yeah,
when you're talking to the department heads, I can't emphasize how important it is that you make sure you qualify with them, is this the general fund? And,
Yeah,
And-
she had
and-
no idea where the money,
well,
you know, because she's not the one touching it. Someone's reimbursing the employees from.
I know, but it's your department, you gotta look at your budget.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you don't, and they get, every department head gets a printout every single month,
Yeah.
and if you see things aren't looking the way they should, you should question it.
Exactly. Yes.
again, if you have any questions that cannot be resolved between you and the department head, that little far right cell annotated in such a way that this may need to be revisited
Yeah.
at a higher level. So we
Yes.
can,
Right.
we can
Yes.
certify, qualify, validate,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. And these two
Yeah.
questions I just asked Debbie, I had put down in this far right box that I needed to ask Debbie about
Yeah.
these two
Yeah,
things
and
with the
feel
pool.
free to just send me an email anytime.
Yes, exactly. I figured since we were here and I met with
Oh,
her
yeah,
earlier,
no,
that
no,
would be.
I'm just saying in the
time.
future,
Yeah.
if you're coming up with someone in between.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order? One
All
last note, we got the training tomorrow.
Yeah.
You and
What
Luke,
time you
Joe.
guys leaving from here?
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't look up the address to see what the distance
It's
driving was, but if it
it's-
starts 8:30, we might as well get there as it starts, right? Or that's
Yeah.
that's registration slash.
I'd say leave no
Breakfast.
later than 7:30, it's a
Yeah,
solid
Manchester
hour
is
to
a solid
get there.
hour.
I
Yeah.
put it in here, Derryfield Country Club directions from.
It's on the other side of
Leaders.
Manchester.
We'll be
but
ready to
you
leave
get
here at
there pretty
7:30.
quick.
So it's
Okay.
about an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah, I could meet. I mean,
Between 54 minutes and an hour and 7 minutes.
well,
at
7:30
this
is
time of
probably
day.
7:30 there's probably some traffic going through Bedford and.
I'm thinking
whatnot, so.
7.
Okay, Mitch is not gonna be there.
Yeah.
You got the bug.
Right. So, I don't know, 7:15 the latest.
Yeah.
Leave here at 7:15 latest.
I think 7:15 would be good.
Good.
Okay?
Alright, who, are you guys going together?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll drive
Okay.
it.
Alright.
How
That's
is,
fine.
how is Sean getting there?
He's gonna do his own thing,
Okay, alright.
and then, I think,
I got plenty of room, so.
okay, I mean, we all do, but he had said something about, having not all of us in the same,
Yeah.
Get hit by a bus.
right, and we're all dead.
You got your files,
Town's
didn't
gonna
you,
shut
Bob?
down.
Huh?
You got your files,
I did.
didn't you?
I did both of
Okay,
them. Thank you.
good.
Got my
Alrighty.
terms.
Yes.
I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Yep, second.
Okay.